all my books and all my tweets and all my emails and all my YouTube videos were all deleted, and I had to compress all of my stuff into 60 seconds, what would I say for somebody who's in their 20s and 30s? This is what I said. Figure out what you want, ignore the opinions of others, and do so much volume that it would be unreasonable to not be successful.
Figure out what you want, ignore the opinions of others, and do so much volume that it would be unreasonable not to be successful. Let the words hang in the air for a moment. Feel their weight, their stark simplicity. It's easy to hear a statement like that and categorize it instantly, to file it away in the mind's cabinet labeled productivity tips, motivational quotes. But to mistake this for a mere tactic, for just another hack in a world saturated with them, is to profoundly miss the point. What we just heard is not a checklist. It is a philosophical razor. It is an instrument of intellectual and spiritual clarification, designed with a single purpose: to cut away a lifetime of accumulated baggage. For years, we are encouraged to add more skills, more connections, more contingency plans. We believe that by layering complexity upon complexity, we will somehow insulate ourselves from risk. The result is not clarity. It is a state of elegant paralysis. We find ourselves standing in a hallway of 1,000 doors, terrified of choosing the wrong one, while the clock on our one life ticks relentlessly on. Hormozi's framework doesn't offer to help you organize that clutter. It hands you the blade and calmly instructs you to carve it all away. It is an invitation to sever the deep-seated need for external validation, to slice through the comforting illusion that there is a perfect time to begin, and to surgically remove the most pervasive belief of all, that you can achieve an extraordinary outcome through ordinary means. Therefore, in the minutes that follow, our purpose is not to simply explain this framework as one might explain a recipe. Our purpose is to place it under a microscope, to dissect the profound psychological and philosophical bedrock upon which each of these pillars stands. We will explore why it works, delving into the fundamental principles of human nature, focus, and causality. This is not a journey into tactics. It is a deep dive into an operating system for a life of consequence. Let us examine that first pillar, the very bedrock of the framework. Figure out what you want. Our culture has romanticized this command into a passive, almost mystical quest. We are told to find our passion as if it were an object hidden under a rock, waiting to be discovered. But this is a profound misunderstanding. The instruction is not to find something, but to figure it out, to decide, to architect, to commit. This is not a quest. It is an act of supreme courage. The courage lies in its decisiveness. In a world that worships infinite optionality, the act of choosing one path is simultaneously the act of abandoning all others. It's a willing sacrifice of potential futures for a single actualized present. This is a rebellion against the tyranny of what if, that seductive whisper that keeps us paralyzed, weighing endless variables, convinced that the perfect choice is just one more piece of information away. We mistakenly believe clarity is a prerequisite for action when it is, in fact, a result of it. We think we need a high-resolution map of the entire journey before we dare take the first step, but no such map exists. True, functional clarity is not about knowing the final destination. It is simply about knowing the direction of the next few feet. Imagine navigating a dense forest at night with only a flashlight. You cannot see the edge of the woods. You can only see the ground immediately in your path. But if you consistently point that flashlight north and take step after step into the small circle of light it provides, you will, with certainty, make progress. This act of choosing your direction is how you begin to pay down what Hormozi calls ignorance debt. As long as you remain undecided, dabbling in a dozen interests, you accumulate a small, unmanageable debt in each. You learn a little about everything and master nothing. The moment you choose your north, you consolidate the debt. Now, every action, every mistake, and every lesson becomes a significant payment on that one loan. You stop being a dabbler and start becoming an expert. So, figure out what you want is not a gentle suggestion to daydream. It is a firm demand to make a courageous choice. Point your flashlight and start walking. With our direction chosen, we arrive at the second pillar, a command that feels almost unnatural to the human psyche. Ignore the opinions of others. This instruction is not difficult because we are weak. It is difficult because we are human. For hundreds of thousands of years, our survival depended entirely on social cohesion. The brain of our ancestors developed a profound and necessary obsession with the opinions of the tribe, because being accepted meant access to food, protection, and mates. Being ostracized, cast out from the circle of the campfire, was not a social inconvenience, it was a death sentence. That ancient life or death software is still running in our minds today, even though our environment has radically changed. Our nervous system cannot distinguish between the existential threat of tribal exile and the modern threat of a critical comment on the internet. It interprets both as a danger to our very being. This is why the fear of public judgment often feels more potent, more visceral, than the fear of failure itself. Failure is an event. You can fail at a task, learn from it, and recover in private. But judgment feels like a verdict on your worth as a person, a threat of being deemed unworthy by the collective. Understanding this deep wiring is the first step toward overriding it. The act of ignoring others is therefore not an exercise in ego or arrogance. It is not about declaring yourself superior to the judgment of your peers. It is a conscious, strategic withdrawal. It is the recognition that your mission, the signal you chose to follow in the first step, is fragile. It requires a sterile environment to grow, especially in its early stages. The opinions of others, both their praise and their criticism, are a form of contamination. Praise can make you complacent, tying your motivation to external validation rather than internal drive. Criticism can inject paralyzing doubt, causing you to question the path you deliberately chose. To ignore them is to become a dedicated guardian of your focus. It is to build a quarantine around your objective, protecting it from the noise of the world, so you can hear the faint, crucial signal of your own intent. It is the deliberate act of prioritizing the integrity of your long-term vision over the fleeting comfort of short-term social approval. But shielding yourself from the external noise is only the initial layer of this challenge. The more insidious battle is fought on internal ground, because the most powerful opinions are not the ones we hear, but the ones we have memorized. Over time, through repetition and our own emotional investment, those external voices, the skepticism of a parent, the doubt of a teacher, the perceived judgment of a successful colleague are no longer external. They breach our defenses and become internalized. They cease to be someone else's opinion and become a part of our own internal operating system, a script that runs automatically in the background of our consciousness. This is the phenomenon Hormozi alludes to when he speaks of the specific voices in our heads. Take a moment and listen. When you hesitate before a great leap, whose voice do you truly hear? Is it your own, grounded in a rational assessment of risk? Or is it an echo, a recording of your father's cautionary tone, or the phantom disapproval of a mentor you desperately want to impress? You are no longer reacting to a person in the world. You are reacting to a ghost in your own machine. This collection of internalized ghosts eventually coalesces into a single, formidable entity, the inner critic. And this critic is the master saboteur, because it speaks to you with your own voice. It knows all of your deepest insecurities and fears, and it uses that intimate knowledge to construct perfectly logical, compelling arguments for why you should play small, wait longer, and be more realistic. It disguises fear as prudence and doubt as wisdom. The true, monumental challenge of this pillar, then, is not merely ignoring the chatter of people at a party or deleting a negative comment online. That is simple behavioral hygiene. The real work is the deep, moment-to-moment discipline of identifying that critical voice within, recognizing it as a foreign entity, a relic of past programming, and consciously choosing not to grant it authority. It is the practice of separating the you who has a chosen mission from their it that is the echo of old fears. This is the true arena. Silencing the critic you have allowed to live in your own mind is where the war for your focus is ultimately won or lost. Having chosen a direction and fortified the mind, we arrive at the engine of the entire framework. The third pillar, do so much volume that it would be unreasonable not to be successful. This is, by far, the most misunderstood piece of the puzzle. It is often misinterpreted as a simple, brutish command to work hard, to endure suffering for its own sake. But this is a shallow reading. The philosophy of volume is not about the nobility of effort. It is about the mathematics of inevitability. It is about fundamentally shifting your approach to achievement from a game of chance to a law of physics. Most people treat their goals like a lottery. They buy one ticket, one business idea, one creative project, one grand attempt, and then spend their energy hoping that their number is called. Their strategy is based on luck, the big break. They are passive participants waiting for external forces to align in their favor. This framework demands that you abandon the lottery entirely. It instructs you to become the causal force yourself. It is about creating a system where success is not the hoped-for destination, but the logical, unavoidable byproduct of the process. This is the deeper meaning of the metaphor. You are transforming your goal from a lottery ticket into a law of nature, like gravity. You do not wake up each morning and hope that gravity will keep you on the ground. You simply structure your actions in alignment with its undeniable existence. Relentless volume allows you to do the same with success. You no longer hope for it. You apply so much focus pressure, so many attempts, so many iterations, that you create your own gravitational pull towards the outcome. The sheer quantity of your informed efforts begins to warp the fabric of probability in your favor. You are taking luck out of the equation through a massive number of trials. With enough volume, a positive result ceases to be a possibility and begins its transition into a statistical certainty. It becomes the only logical conclusion to the overwhelming evidence of your work. You are no longer asking the universe for permission to succeed. You are demonstrating, through a mountain of action, that no other outcome is reasonable. It is a natural mistake to view these three pillars as a linear sequence. First you get clarity, then you ignore people, then you work hard. But this is not a checklist. It is a dynamic, living system. Each component is inextricably linked to the others, creating a powerful, self-reinforcing loop, an engine of personal evolution. Think of it this way. Clarity, the first pillar, provides the target. It is the coordinate you enter into your guidance system. Without it, volume is just directionless, chaotic energy, spinning its wheels and digging a deeper rut. The second pillar, ignoring the opinions of others, builds the protective walls around your focus. It is the casing around the engine, the fuselage of the rocket. It ensures that the immense power generated by your efforts is not dissipated by the atmospheric drag of doubt or diverted by the gravitation pull of social pressure. It channels every ounce of thrust in one unwavering direction toward the target you have set. And the third pillar, unreasonable volume, is the engine itself, the raw, kinetic force that creates forward motion. It is the relentless output that propels you through the darkness toward the light of your objective. But here lies the critical, often overlooked genius of this system: the feedback loop. The engine of volume does more than just create motion. It generates data. Every action, every attempt, every failure, and every small victory is a packet of information sent back from the front lines. This data, the exhaust from your engine, is the most valuable fuel in the entire system. It flows directly back to the first pillar, constantly refining your clarity. Your initial direction, your north, may have been a well-educated guess, but the data from your first 100 attempts transforms that guess into a tested hypothesis. The data from your first 1,000 attempts begins to transform that hypothesis into a conviction. You learn what doesn't work, which allows you to aim better. You learn what does work, which allows you to apply force more intelligently. This is not a static system. It is a learning machine. Clarity fuels volume. Volume is protected by focus, and the data from that volume sharpens your clarity for the next cycle. This is how momentum is born. The consistent application of this three-pillar system does more than just produce external results. Over time, it performs a kind of internal alchemy. It forges a new identity. You begin to undergo a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your place in the world. You cease to be a follower and you become a builder. The follower is the default state for most of humanity. The follower searches for a PI-made map, a life plan handed down by an institution, a parent, or society. They crave certainty and believe their primary task is to find and walk a path that already exists. They are, in essence, consumers of reality. The builder, however, operates from a completely different premise. The builder understands that no map leads to a destination that is uniquely theirs. The path must be created. They see the chasm between where they are and where they want to be, and they begin the arduous work of laying the bridge, brick by solitary brick. They are producers of their reality. This shift in identity is precisely where Hormozi's other Stoic principles, like accepting boredom and getting over yourself, find their true meaning. For the follower, these are painful chores. Boredom is a sign they are on the wrong, uninspiring path. Their personal history is a collection of reasons and excuses for why they cannot follow the map correctly. But for the builder, this entire perspective is inverted. Boredom is not a negative signal. It is the sound of progress. It is the rhythmic, monotonous hum of the engine of volume at work. It is the quiet satisfaction of laying one brick perfectly, then another, and another. It's the texture of creation itself. Similarly, their past is no longer an excuse to be gotten over. It becomes the quarry from which they source their unique materials. The hardships, the disadvantages, the perceived injustices these are, the very stones that give their bridge character and strength. They are no longer liabilities, they are the core elements of a powerful origin story. You stop being a person defined by what has happened to you and become a person defined by what you are choosing to build. Because of it, this identity of the builder inevitably brings us to a word that is heavy with notions of pain and loss. Sacrifice. We are told that great achievements require great sacrifice, and we imagine giving up joy, relationships, and peace of mind. But this is a distorted view, a narrative that makes inaction feel comfortable and justified. The framework we are exploring asks you to challenge this definition, to place it under the harsh light of honest accounting. Conduct a simple audit of the last 24 hours you were given a non-renewable resource. How many of those hours were consciously invested in the future you claim to desire? How many were spent building your bridge? And how many were simply consumed, offered up to the endless scroll, the algorithm's whim, the low-stakes drama of digital life? A form of anesthesia that numbs you to the passage of time, but leaves you with nothing of value in return. Now, look at that portion of your life that was consumed and ask yourself with radical honesty, is giving that up truly a sacrifice? What if it is not a sacrifice at all, but simply a trade? A sacrifice implies giving up something of high value. A trade is a calculated exchange of a lower value asset for a higher value one. You are not being asked to sacrifice your happiness. You are being presented with a trade, the low value, fleeting comfort of passive distraction in exchange for the high value, compounding equity of a self-determined life. You are trading digital anesthesia for tangible progress. You are trading the approval of strangers for self-respect. When framed this way, the choice becomes almost insultingly obvious. So why does it feel so hard? The pain associated with this choice is not the pain of the trade itself, but the pain of resistance to it. It is the discomfort of withdrawal. Our brains have become addicted to the cheap, easy dopamine hits provided by modern distractions. The pain you feel when you choose focus over distraction is not a signal that you are making a bad decision. It is the temporary, necessary ache of an addict in detoxification. It is the feeling of your mind and spirit recalibrating to a higher, more meaningful standard of existence. And so, we arrive at the end of the analysis. We have deconstructed the framework, explored the psychology, and redefined the concepts of identity and sacrifice. All of this understanding brings us here, to this present moment, to a single, unavoidable point of choice. Hormozi speaks of the heaviest things in life not being iron or gold, but unmade decisions. This is a profound truth. An unmade decision is not a neutral state of waiting. It is an active burden. It is a chronic, low-grade infection of the spirit that drains your energy, occupies your mental bandwidth, and fills the quiet moments of your life with the dull ache of regret. It is a weight that grows heavier with each passing day. The path of inaction, of deliberation, of waiting for the perfect moment is not a path of peace. It is a path of quiet, accumulating pain. So this is the ultimate choice before you, stripped of all complexity. You will face pain either way. A life free of struggle is not an option available to you. The only choice you have is which kind of pain you will endure. You can choose the chronic, heavy, and endless pain of regret, the weight of the unmade decision and the unrealized life. Or you can choose the acute, sharp, and temporary pain of action, the sting of discipline, the fear of risk, the burn of effort. One is the pain of decay, a slow submission to circumstances. The other is the pain of birth, the ordeal of bringing a new reality into existence. Both paths involve suffering, but only one of them leads to a destination of your own making. Only one of them leads to the person you know you are capable of becoming. The time for analysis is over. The time for understanding is complete. Now, there is only the decision, that call you know you need to make, that project you know you must start, that comfort you know you must leave behind. The path forward is not found in more thinking. It is created by finally choosing. If this deeper insight resonated with you, subscribe for more analyses and share in the comments how this principle shifts your perspective. To get the full original context from the source, make sure to watch Alex's complete video linked in the description below.